Hey y'all, welcome back to the Keep Looking Up podcast. Do you guys remember a couple weeks ago when I was maybe mentioning that we were going to have someone really major on the podcast? Well, today's the day, and I knew it was happening because it was confirmed, but I still really couldn't conceptualize that it was happening until it actually happened, and it happened. And I got through the interview without screaming, crying, and throwing up. So good for me. This is someone that I have idolized, no pun intended, since I was 12 years old. I remember sitting every Monday night in my dad's office while he would do prep for his morning show, and we would watch the singing competition that was sweeping the nation because we had never seen a show like this before. And I was very into music already, so I would take notes on all the performers. My dad and I would have bets on who was going to get kicked off. And I remember from the very beginning feeling a huge connection with a singer who was from Burleson, Texas, which was about 30 minutes from me. And I was rooting for her from the very beginning. And she really has shaped, not to sound cheesy, but she has shaped a lot of my singing and my genres that I'm interested in, and the way she would sing with such soul just really resonated with me. So she is a person I have looked up to for a really long time. I was able to meet her, I think it honestly, y'all, was like 3 months before my dad passed. She put on a show in Dallas, and my dad took me, and we got to go backstage. And they had had a relationship before. She had come on his show. And it's very surreal to hear her talking about my dad on how much she loved him and would listen to him every day because I'm such a huge fan of hers. And she was so kind. She'd just gotten engaged at the time. And so I was just reflecting on what's happened in the last 10 years for her, how much her whole career has changed. She has her own television show. She was on The Voice. She has just expanded not only as an artist, but as a person. And again, I've always really admired her. So she has been someone I have been dying to talk to. And like I say in the intro, she has been on my vision board for 2 years. I'm very thankful to my team who has been able to make this happen. And I'm so thankful that Kelly agreed to it. And we had such an amazing conversation, you guys. I had a list of 14 questions that I probably got to 3 of because it was just such an easy conversation. She talks so openly about her musical process and how this album that she's releasing on June 23rd called Chemistry, how it's so different from anything that she's done before. And it's so in alignment with where I'm at. And it's really cool to hear another artist just be doing what I want to do and doing it in such a great way and connecting with people. And I think you guys are going to love the conversation. We talk a lot about, dealing with heartbreak and how cathartic it is to be able to express it, and exactly what I preach on here. And so it just feels very full circle to be speaking with her just a few months before my dad's 10-year anniversary. And she had so many nice things to say about him as well. So this is a dream come true. This is like I said, just a full circle moment. And I'm so, so thankful. Oh, there she goes. Now she's crying. I'm just so thankful to be in this space, and the timing has been perfect. And what a great way to usher in the summer. I got to talk to Kelly Clarkson, you guys. I can't believe it. So we're going to just dive right in. And I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm just gonna get stronger. I'm just gonna get stronger. Welcome back to the Keep Looking Up podcast, you guys. It's a very special day. I'm interviewing someone who I can't cry because I just got my lashes done, but she has been on my vision board as someone that I wanted to interview for 2 years. And I have looked up to
Oh,
her pretty much my whole life. And this is such an amazing opportunity to speak to Miss Kelly Clarkson from Texas, our girl. We're both Tarrant County girls and we're
yes.
both Tauruses. So we have a lot in common.
Wait, when's your birthday?
April 30th.
Oh my gosh. I
Yeah.
know so many people from my birthday to the 30th. I know
Really?
so many people in that. Yes, it's crazy.
Our parents were busy
Yeah.
like, around
Everybody was busy 9 months
around the
previous to
fall.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So Kelly, we met about 10 years ago, right before my dad passed away. I think it was a
Mhm.
year before he passed. Do you remember at your show at
Yeah.
Nokia?
Yes.
And it's so wild. That was 10 years ago. My dad passed July 27th of 2013. So we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of his passing, and it's so wild to think of all the things that you've been through in the last
Mhm.
decade, how much your career has changed, and it's
Yeah.
just an honor to speak to you. And I got sent so many clips of when you had Donny Osmond on your show,
Yeah.
and you guys talked about my dad. It was so surreal.
Because that's my first interview with your dad. Well, first of all, back up. Like, I know, like, it's your dad, but like, I grew up listening to Kid and Kelly Raspberry, Big At, like all of them. So that's like, and my manager who's sitting right here, we're both like those kids that grew up
I
in the
love
area.
it.
So like so that was like the coolest thing to be able to be on his show. And then he brought in like Donny Osmond happened to be there doing an interview at the same time. And I was like, what's happening? And that's where we met, was on the radio show at 106.1 Kiss FM. So no, it was a really cool thing. And growing up with him, even like was it kids Christmas wishes, what were the kids, yeah, I was like
The
he just,
Christmas wishes. Oh yeah.
yes, Christmas wishes, it was just it was such a cool thing for like, I don't know, just to wake up and, on the way to school, even with my mom, like her dropping me off, like we both listen to that. Like, it's just like, I know people find music and movies nostalgic, but so are DJs that have been in your life
Totally.
since
Totally.
you were a kid. So that was incredible. And it's also, I'll never forget I remember finding out it's my mother's birthday is July 27th.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, so I remember finding out on her birthday when that happened. I was like, what in the world? Like, it's and I know like we didn't even like regularly see each other or barbecue ever. Like, I just mean, it's one of those things that's it just makes such an impact on you from such a childhood thing. Like, you just were raised with these people that were constantly every day, in your car, in your house. And because I remember, girl, I'm older than you. I used to press play record to kind of get with a tape in there to
Oh
like
hell
record the
yeah.
song because I couldn't afford to buy it. So like, and I'd always have like the DJs like on the song like every time I'd listen. So it was just it's an amazing dad. He did an amazing thing for a lot of amazing things for a lot of people in that community.
He did. And
Yeah.
it's so surreal though to hear people like you talking about the impact that he's made because
Because
he's
you have a different story with him.
right,
Yeah.
right. But it's truly like so many parents pass away and you talk about them amongst your family and that's pretty much
Mm-hmm.
it. But to have people of such impact talk to me and be able to tell me things about him that I maybe didn't know is
Mm-hmm.
so cool. So I part of my July as is to honor him for his 10-year anniversary. I'm interviewing Kelly Raspberry and a lot of people that he worked with, and I'm finding out
Yeah.
so many really cool nuggets about my dad and things that I would know from a work arena. What did you know about my dad? Because he clearly made an impact on you, and I know you would
Yeah.
come in to the station. I always would want to skip school and go in when you were coming in, and I was never allowed. But I know my dad also, especially with some other of the DJs that were coming up in the time, something that made him very different is he was very respectful to women. And
Literally, I was going to start with, he was always so respectful, like even listening to interviews like with people, because I think people don't realize you get more out of a person if you're respectful. You can still get the
totally,
story that people are wanting to talk about, but do it in a respectful manner. He was always kind. And he was always honestly very witty. Like, I love that show too, because they all had such great chemistry and he was very witty, and the playfulness of all of them, like, and how they were all such different characters. Like, it was, it was a different thing. I don't think I've ever experienced that in any other form quite like that with that cast, like,
yeah.
and I, it was just, he was I think the biggest thing was respectful. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, he wouldn't ever try and, even if there was a story that everybody wanted to talk about and everybody knew it had to be talked about, he just had a very charming and respectful way of getting the story, but like in a manner of like, it's relatable. The topic could possibly be relatable to a lot of people. And that's a rarity. That doesn't always happen.
It's something I try to emulate because I think it's really hard, especially at that time. It was cool to be raunchy, and I'm seeing TikTok videos, especially after I watched the Anna Nicole Smith documentary that just came out, and the way she was treated. Oh my God, it's wild. It's wild how she was treated by some of these radio hosts, and just I wouldn't know any different.
It's wild what people ask you. Like, what people were asked of me, like in my early 20s specifically, were incredibly inappropriate. Like that you would never ask someone, like if you're just like out to dinner, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just like, so yeah, no, that happens.
Who I listen to, and I won't name it, but you'll know who I'm talking about, wanted to weigh her on air.
Oh, that, by the way, that's not an odd request from people asking questions. No, I'm telling you, it was very different, especially in the early 2000s. Like, it was like I feel so old saying that, but like it was just a very different time, and people got away with a lot of inappropriate things.
Well, it must make you feel really good to kind of be in that power position now and to be able to kind of take the power back. And I think that's what's so cool about living in the time that we do, is we have now you and Drew Barrymore and these really amazing people who are able to connect with women. And when you go in, you're going to be treated with respect. And so I have to give you kudos on that, because it's not always a safe space going into things like that. So
no, I think just how you said, like with whether it's me, Drew, Jennifer, Sherry, like all of us, like we've all been on the other side of that. Right. Like, I think that's what's interesting. Like, you know, even with Ellen back then, like she had been on the other side of that, of scrutiny, major scrutiny, like against her, like, you know, so I think we understand what it's like to sit in that seat. So you obviously want to take an approach that's like, once again, like your dad, like respectful, but like can talk about it if they want to talk about it. But I'm very adamant on my show. I make sure, like, I double check. Like, I'm like, does this person want to discuss this, or are we pushing this? Because like, especially like the first 2 seasons, like I didn't know my team as well, and I'm like, you know, I don't know what they're saying. Oh, they're comfortable with it, but they really weren't. You know what I'm saying? So I'm very adamant about guests on the show, like, and I just don't want to be that kind of show.
No, and you're not that kind of person. Like I know you, but I know.
No, you're right. I'm not.
The integrity that you have, and you wouldn't try to get something out of someone so that you have that information over other people. That's just not the vibe that I get from you. But it also, thank you for having a safe space for people to feel comfortable and like they can share. I think that's really rare nowadays, especially with cancel culture being what it is and all that. But anyway, I want to talk to you about your new album that's coming out really soon, Chemistry. And girl, I've been waiting for this album. I have been so excited for it. And I want to know, I'm an artist as well, and I want to know what has changed since you put out your last record, not just in the industry, but with social media. What are you doing differently this time around?
Well, for me, it's kind of a selfish release. Like, you know, I went through something, and I've never had a kind of a concept album like this. So I've never done it like this. It's definitely, I think all my albums are personal because I've always been very honest in my writing, but as a collective whole, this is probably the most I don't know if personal is the word, but it's definitely the most honest from start to finish. But I think, you know, with the industry, this now what it is, and then all, you know, the social media stuff, and it's everywhere, I get it. But I also am like a talk show host now. So I have like a 9 to 5, you know, and I'm also a single mom of 2. So it's like, I think my record label knew going in, I was like, look, this promotion is going to be a little different because I have a lot like on my plate, and they're very supportive in that. And so I ended up doing this whole show. Like, the album was so important to me because I feel like people we're used to singles now. Like it's back to like singles market instead of like full albums and like stories and like, oh my God, so this album is when this band was going through this and that's why these songs came out, and like it's just different. So this was a very different album for me. So it was very important to play this. I had a birthday at the Belasco show in LA, and I played the album from start to finish on my birthday, and had like some diehard fans that were awesome come and to the show, and we had a good time. But it's just very important for me to have this to release to people, so they have like not just like normal videos that we usually release. It's more of like, this is almost too personal. It's like, what do you make the video of? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, how do I paint that? Like, so it's more like, we're releasing these things, well, up until the album. I'm not allowed to say, I'm like gonna get in trouble. But we're releasing these things up until the album, and it's more so of like me talking directly to them. It's more of like an intimate setting, and it's more that kind of vibe. Like even my Vegas thing, like that changed. Before COVID, I had this huge Vegas show I was doing. Like it was way like it was a different thing. And this album happened, COVID happened, everything happened. This is much more intimate. It's just more intimate vibe. And so that whole show changed. And now it's a different setting. And I think you just have to, like, you'll get it as an artist, like you kind of have to cater to whatever the art is at the moment, like if it's that kind of vibe, or if it's like a dance album, then you want to do something different, so it's like, I just kind of catered to what this was, but it's kind of different for me because I just have other jobs going on. So
right. How do you feel about putting out an album like this personal?
I've never had a problem with, I mean, believe you me, there are songs that I would have been inappropriate to put on there. So I didn't.
Right.
Yes, they're very literal.
But how cathartic is that? Like, I'm going
to get it out.
It's the best feeling in the whole entire world.
I feel so sorry for people that do not have that kind of outlet, because to be able to write it out and get it out, or artists that paint it out or sculpt it out, whatever they do, like being an artist is such a gift when it comes to hard times. Like it's how we communicate, not only to others but to ourselves. Like, what am I feeling? And then once you finish it, you're like, oh shit, that's what I was feeling. I had no idea. Like, so that is 100% amazing. And then I chose the songs that I felt were broad enough and not too literal, and but still getting to the point of like how I didn't want to hide. I've never been that person from like Because of You or any of the early stuff. Like I've never been that person to hide behind some kind of perfect guise. Like, it's like, that's not life, and that's not real. Life can be messy and lovely. But it literally, the album goes through like the sexy, like intimate, amazing parts of a relationship to like the detrimental parts, and figuring all that out, the roller coaster that is. And I'm okay with that, because I did tell my label I was not able to release it until, if you've been through anything like that, it's you want to be, through it whenever you're talking about it.
100%. I see Kelsey Ballerini. There's so many different artists that are putting out these like kind of heartbreak albums right now. I went through a breakup in January, and I've been so thankful when I heard that you were putting out an album too, because it's also good inspiration for me to be working through my own stuff. And I've had such and I know you'll get this, like every I'm in my 30s now, and every decade my music is different, and my interaction with myself is different, and my art is different. But to be able to articulate it as a cathartic thing, as a therapy thing, I've never really experienced. I've never been able to go there. And like, I'm just now being able to write songs about my dad and my breakup. And so it's,
in this sense, not to sound like one is capitalizing on it, but it's more of like, I think you learn a lot more about yourself in the hard times and the good times. So like those 100%. Songs, so those songs are probably going to kick the other songs ass. Like,
they're what I'm saying? The most relatable.
Because they're the most relatable, and they're the most raw and real. And that's what people crave, I think.
Especially I think we're seeing a shift where perfectionism was ideal, and with Instagram and posting and all of this, where now I think people are craving real feelings and real authentic vulnerability. And so when artists put themselves out there like this, it just makes you feel closer to them, because they're letting you in on a part of your life. And When I hear those songs that are so relatable, that's why I want to be an artist, because I want to make people feel heard and seen. And that's exactly what you're doing with your music.
Yeah, and you want to give an honest message, and it feels good to get it out.
Absolutely. It's good for you, and it's good for the people that receive it too, because it can help them grieve as well. So speaking of my new project, I'm writing about my ex, and it should be a country song because it was like I broke up with my boyfriend, and then a month later I had to put my dog down. So like my dog died. And
my gosh.
Yeah, it was not a good time.
Wow.
But I'm thriving now, and I'm able to like I honestly, going through that hard time has made me the person that I am right now, feeling very confident, and all of these emotions were coming in, and my strength I had to show, so I'm working.
Is it sad that I literally got more sad about your dog than the relationship?
Me too.
He was like, oh, I would
he was only
die.
4. I know, he was only 4.
Oh, I lost a dog young, a Labradoodle, and you would have thought I'd lost a child. Like
Same.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, he fell down the stairs and had a yeah, and then was fine, and then 6 months later passed. Started getting seizures and passed. So it was horrible. But I'm telling you, I'm very happy that not that my dog died, but through all that adversity, I really stood up for myself, and I saw who
you showed up for yourself. Yeah.
I did, and it was a really good feeling. So I'm working through all that, my music, and I'm working with a lot of different writers. I live in Austin, and I'm working with some Gen Zers, and I'm dead because they obviously know all of your current stuff, but like Thankful raised me. It's in my DNA.
And that's like way old for them. Yeah, that's like my first album. Yeah.
Yeah. So I am like, here's the good shit right here. Like I have you, I have like Before Your Love will probably be my wedding song. Trouble with Love is on my playlist for what I want my record to sound like.
Oh my God, thank you. I love that song. Thank you.
Well, and also too, I mean, I am not that much younger than you, but I think I was 12 or 13 when you won Idol. And I remember I have a very visceral memory sitting in my dad's office watching you win and bawling my eyes out. And you showed me, and I think this is why shows like American Idol and The Voice are so important too for young kids, and is because you're exposed to music that maybe you wouldn't be before. And I remember hearing you sing Aretha Franklin, and it ignited something in me as a young kid because you exposed me to her. So
no, I agree with that. So and with that, like even meeting people on those shows, like, or even like you end up, going on tour and you meet other bands and they introduce you to music. Like that's all that is networking. And then you finding like all this other information. I remember like I dated this guy named Graham, and he showed me Patty Griffin, and I was like, this relationship is worth gold just for this knowledge. Like I was like, and I'm so thankful still to this day, because I was like, we didn't work out, but man, he helped change my life. And like even writing style, just by introducing me to this amazing artist. Like, so I think that's what those shows do. I think that's what just meeting people, especially in Austin, there's so many musical people there. Like you end up meeting, especially if you're working with younger people or older people, you get a wealth of knowledge of music you didn't even know existed that really inspires you to kind of change your sound and mold what you're becoming in the next chapter, whatever that is.
Totally. So speaking on that, what was this album? What was your inspiration? What were you listening to when you were going through all of this?
So completely honest, I wasn't listening to anything. I literally was crying just for like a year straight. like it was a really, really, really difficult time. And so I don't remember listening to anything. Like I literally just remember writing. I wrote so much, and I didn't even think it would ever go on a record. I just knew I had to get things out. I couldn't figure out where I was. There's a song on the new album called Lighthouse that song, like writing that song, and I read a lot instead of like listening to music. Like I was reading a lot, just taking anything in that would help me heal.
What were you
like
reading, if you don't mind me asking?
Like I literally did Glennon Doyle's Untamed was given to me, and it just was, the timing was perfect. Like, it was just like, okay. And then reading something in there inspired me to write, Lighthouse and other things on that album, because I think when you just go through something so hardcore and you're an artist, like you just need to get it out. And that was the thing. It was just getting it out. So I honestly was just nonstop listening to, I'd ask every writer friend I had, like, do you have any just like tracks or just like licks, like something to inspire me? Cause I've written a ton of stuff just by myself, but I'm wanting to be like inspired by, do you have anything moody? Do you have anything like angry sounding? Do you have anything sad? Like, you know, like I was just asking people for anything. So I was listening to just tracks and then just writing by myself. And I wasn't really inspired. It's funny because although I wasn't listening to anything, you can definitely hear influences. Like you can definitely hear that I'm a Fleetwood Mac fan on some of them, or a Green Day on like mine, even that chorus, how it's very straight tone and like that, you know, so you can definitely hear, you know, Mariah or Whitney, like there's with me, like there's other people that you can definitely hear that I've been influenced by in life, but I didn't listen to anything except for what I was writing.
But that's really cool because that just means all the inspiration's coming from within you.
My personal dumpster fire of a life. Yes.
Well, it's gonna make beautiful art. So sometimes it's worth it to have that dumpster fire. I totally get it. Okay, it's so funny because I had a question on here where I was gonna ask you because I was a musical theater major. And so when I heard you sing She Used to Be Mine, I freaked out on the show. And then I saw a little notification over the weekend that you're writing a Broadway musical.
So I have a couple ideas actually, and I've been writing this one idea, yes. And then actually from that interview that you're talking about, I actually came up with this whole other idea too. So I'm very excited. I never thought I'd be able to live in New York. My ex definitely would never have lived there. And I just have kids, right? They're in school. I had this job here. I just didn't know if it'd ever be a reality for me because before that I was always touring. So it just never worked out. So, you know, this is a different part of my life that I love. I grew up in musical theater. So I don't necessarily, because of time, know like what that's all going to look like or how it's going to pan out. But definitely I've been writing a couple things just because it's not because I want to do it, just kind of happened. I just started doing it because I thought I would want to see this. I think that's the stuff I like to be a part of. I'm like, whether it's like a TV show or anything like that or movie, I'm like, that's my dog. Sorry, Henry. I just want to make stuff that I would want to listen to, or I would want to watch, or I would want to go and experience. So, but yeah, I love Broadway.
Could you see yourself doing that maybe down the line? Writing?
Oh, 100%. I think for me, it's always been timing. Like it's always timing. It's like, you have to dedicate so much time. And, you know, at this point in my life, I'm a single mom. I have my kids most of the time. Like and I also have a 9 to 5, like, you know, with the talk show. So it's just a different time for me, and also still trying to fit in like shows, you know, whether it's Vegas or touring in the future. Like, so it's just a timing thing, but I definitely behind the scenes am coming up with something that I could be a part of, or I could not be a part of. So it's like, it's teetering right now.
That's so exciting. I love
that.
Along with that talk of like different genres, I know you can sing any and everything, and especially with Taylor Swift and how she's just, you know, genre is not really a thing in music anymore. And I think that could be a good and bad thing. I feel like it's really easy to cross over now. I know you've done country before, but would you ever want to do a country album? Like
my mother just was like, why haven't you come out with a country album? I was in the mountains in my ranch yesterday, and I was like with my mom driving around, and she was like, she's like, are you ever going to do that? Like, cause I've always like, since I fought on American Idol for there to be a country week.
Right.
And cause I was desperately wanting to sing some country music on the show, cause I thought it would be cool to show the diverse like genres that I like or whatever, but they're an English-based company. So they didn't know at the time, they didn't get country music. So nobody was in on that idea. Cut to Carrie Underwood later, but whatever. But like, so they wouldn't even allow me to sing country music. And then this girl like makes the whole thing. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. But anyway, but they just weren't down with it. Now they did surprise me at the very end, which was very cool in Vegas with Reba. And she was like one of my favorite country singers and just the ultimate storyteller. She's such a great storyteller. And so anyway, so they did make up for a little bit at the end, but I've since that moment, you know, even those meetings, they were like, what kind of record do you want to make? I wanted to make like a pop album, a country album, a dance album, an
Yes,
R&B
I love
album.
that.
Like
Yeah.
I love all of that. So the only reason why I chose pop, because I feel like in pop you can kind of do all that. It's like whatever's popular. Like, so
Right.
I felt like that's the way I went for that reason. But I don't think I'm going to release it for like radio purposes or any other reason than just that I've been dying to want to make it. But I will definitely make a country album, and it will sound like the country music that I love and grew up on. But it's like by no means to be like, oh, she's switching genres and she's, gonna go do a worldwide tour. That it's not gonna be that kind of thing. It's literally just gonna be because I love it. And I know that fans of mine have been asking for it for a while too. So I will do it one day.
And will you please collaborate with Garth Brooks, your BFF? Please. It would be so good.
I know I can't say anything, but I maybe have already like worked with him in some capacity. I love Garth. Yeah. I love Trisha too.
I know.
He knows that I love Trisha more.
I love all of y'all together. I love when you run the show. I love when you have him on.
I love both of them so much. And it's
like
really yeah, he's an artist like to his core, like still that same kid. Like even I've been in the studio with him a couple different times, and I think that's what's exciting to see someone that is so massively successful, but still gets so excited like a child about a sound or like he's just still that guy, right? So that's so fun.
And he's a freak of nature on stage. He played in Dallas. He had to do 2 shows a night because it was sold out. So I saw him at the 11 p.m. show after he had already put on a full show. He played till 2 a.m. and was phenomenal. We're like, this is not real. He's a freak.
You know why though? It's just such a deep love. Like he loves it innately. Like there's no other option, I think. So that's what's so remarkable. And that's rare. I don't think we don't have people like that.
I agree. Yeah. Well, I'm coming to Vegas in July to see.
Yeah.
So what can we expect? I know it's different. It's going to be a more intimate venue. Tell me.
Yeah, it's more rock and roll. It's more about the lighting, and it's more about the musicianship and the songs and the messaging and just, more intimate as in like, I don't know, I'm a talker and I think people know that by now, especially. So it's more of like, and I will say each show is different. There's only 10 shows because that's all I would give everyone, but because I don't have time, because I also need a life. So, but anyway, I did 10 shows and I made sure like every, I'm doing the hits, obviously. I'm not going to be that tool. So I'm doing all the ones people expect, but we are going to change the setup a little bit every night for some of the set, because, there are a lot of songs that maybe weren't, like first of all, the new ones, some of the new ones we're splitting up and we'll get to all those every show. But also there's some songs like, Broken and Beautiful that maybe weren't as big of a hit as like A Century Gone On Stronger, but people love that song. So it's like we want to fit those in as well. So it's just going to be different every night as well. So then that's fun for us because it changes it up and it's exciting for us.
Yeah. Okay. I know we're short on time, but since you do have all this going on, we talk about on my podcast a lot about things that give you air. Think of that, airplane analogy of putting the mask on before you help others. What do you do that gives you air?
Well, I can't say something, but I think something my therapist actually said is very important for me. That sounded very LA, but whatever. But
I say that all the time.
It's okay. You know what? I don't even care. I'm not going to defend it. I love it. So, but she was very helpful in the sense of like, hey, I know that you love your kiddos and I know that you love work and I know that, but you just keep giving everything. She was like, you need at least one night, like a week, to do something for you, like whatever that is. And so I started this weekly dinner with some girlfriends, and I know, and honestly, it's been every time I have that, like, I'm not like drunk, but every time I have that drunk girl mentality, I'm like, I love you guys. Like it's just so healing. Like it's that moment when you really realize like how important it is to slow down and just do something else outside of like your normal everyday life. And so that's been really healing, actually.
I love that because I think our girlfriends, we don't get enough time, especially when you have kids and you have all this going on. To prioritize that is really important, but it seems like it would be always the first thing to go. So I feel like that my girlfriends give me air too. And I take lots of baths
Yeah. Oh, I love a bath.
It's a tourist trait. We love
Oh
a good
my
bath.
God, I love a bath with
Give
some
me
Epsom
bath
lavender
salts.
salt. What?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my jam. That's my jam.
Yeah.
Okay, they're telling me we got to go. I have one final question.
Okay.
This podcast is called the Keep Looking Up podcast in honor of my dad, because after every show, he would say, keep looking up, because that's where it all ends. So I ask every guest, what keeps you looking up? What keeps you hopeful and moving forward and optimistic in your life?
You know what? I think people, I know that sounds broad, but I really do. I mean, I definitely found a perfect job in like the talk show. Like I love people. Like I don't always love to be surrounded all the time by them, but I love like learning. I love new people. I love I think being curious. I've always been a curious person. Like I'm sitting here looking at a book on horticulturalism and I love that. And it's like it's just something like I think interest. I think always being interested in things and curious. And really just people, like the more people you have in your life that even if they come in for seasons, like what you learn from them, I think is such a gift. And I think it would be a waste if you didn't take something from every relationship that you've ever had. So I think that's really what it is for me, just relationships.
I love that. You're speaking right to my soul with all this stuff. It's really,
Well, Taurus sisters. This
I
makes
know. We're really connected. Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much for taking the time. This is
Absolutely.
literally a dream come true. And I will see you in Vegas, and I'll be the girl in the back crying
I
hysterically.
might be the one on stage crying. Who knows?
Perfect. I can be a decoy for you though. If you need.
Someone
I can
take
cry
over.
harder. Yeah, if you're crying, I'll cry harder. Thank you
That's
so
a real
much,
friend.
Kelly. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and good on you. This is awesome what you're doing for your dad and for yourself. It's really cool.
Thank you. I appreciate you so much.
All right, girl. Well, have a good one.
Thanks, Kelly.
I'm just gonna get stronger. I'm just gonna get stronger.
Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to subscribe and rate. Keep Looking Up anywhere you stream your podcasts. And to stay up to date on all my latest episodes, you can follow at KLU Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or on my website at carolinekraddick.com. And always remember, keep looking up, because that's where it all is.